You were trained to believe that if people like you, you are safe. The people who taught you that did not mention the cost. When your survival depends on being liked, you become predictable, compliant, and easy to control. Approval is used to reward your obedience and withheld to punish your independence. That is why the most agreeable person in the room rarely decides where the room is going. Being liked and holding strategic authority rarely coexist. Strategic authority is not charisma or visibility. It is the capacity to set direction, impose standards, and enforce priorities when others would prefer comfort. It is the power to say no and have it stick. The moment you prioritize being liked, you dilute that power. People who want approval manage impressions. People who hold authority manage consequences. This is the first distinction you must accept. If your decisions are shaped by how they will be received, your decisions are not yours. If your decisions are shaped by what is required for the mission, your identity is stable, even when it is criticized. Machiavelli wrote that it is safer to be feared than loved when both cannot be chosen together. It was not glorifying cruelty. It was recognizing asymmetry. Love depends on what others feel. Fear depends on what you can enforce. Feelings change when incentives change. Enforcement creates predictable boundaries. In modern language, likability is volatile. Credible consequences are not. The psychology is simple. Your nervous system craves social inclusion. Rejection activates pain circuits in the brain that overlap with physical pain. Every like, laugh, or nod pays you with dopamine and oxytocin. Every frown threatens you with cortisol. Your body makes conformity feel moral and dissent feel risky. Without deliberate counterweights, you will trade authority for comfort without noticing. You will think you are being kind when in reality, you are avoiding the temporary discomfort of being firm. There is a price for making comfort your priority. People push deadlines because you do not enforce them. Boundaries are crossed because you do not protect them. The room learns that your no is a prelude to negotiation. They respect your warmth and quietly bypass your standards. They come to you for empathy, not for direction. You become essential for morale and irrelevant for decisions. If that sounds harsh, look at outcomes. Teams led by approval seekers drift. Parents who avoid firm consequences produce short-term peace and long-term resentment. Founders who chase audience applause weaken their companies. Politicians who need to be adored sell policy to win moments and lose decades. The pattern is stable across domains. Where likability rules, standards decay. The counterintuitive truth is that respect is built through reliability, not through constant positivity. People do not need to enjoy you to trust you. They need to know how you will respond when it matters. They need consistency under pressure. They need you to protect the mission when their impulses would damage it. That is why the leaders you remember are not the ones who kept you comfortable. They are the ones who were willing to be unpopular to prevent a collapse you could not see. Stoic philosophy understood this clearly. Control what is yours to control. Indifference to praise and blame is not apathy. It is allegiance to reason over impulse. Marcus Aurelius wrote about being straight, not kept straight. Authority is not a mood. It is an internal standard that does not bend when the crowd changes tone. You do not need cruelty. You need steel in your criteria and calm in your delivery. Modern psychology supports the trade-off. The Big Five trait of agreeableness correlates with warmth and cooperation. It also correlates with conflict avoidance. High agreeableness leads to short-term harmony and often to long-term concessions. Status research shows two paths, dominance and prestige. Prestige comes from expertise and generosity. Dominance comes from the capacity to impose costs. Strategic authority uses elements of both. You distribute value like a teacher when alignment is high. You impose consequences like a judge when alignment is low. If you refuse the second role, you compromise the first. Groups also punish enforcers. This is built into social dynamics. The person who stops freeloading is thanked in private and criticized in public. The person who holds a hard line is accused of being rigid until results arrive and comfort returns. If you need immediate gratitude, you will never hold the line long enough to be proven right. Machiavelli's point survives because human nature has not changed. In The Prince, he argued that a ruler must be prepared to act against pity, faith, humanity, and religion if the stability of the state requires it. Translate that into modern terms. You must be prepared to act against the image you want to maintain if the stability of your mission requires it. That is the moral center of strategic authority. It serves something larger than your need to be admired. There is a quieter cost to chasing likability that you will not see until it is too late. When you model that approval is the highest good, you teach people to lie to you. They will tell you what you want to hear to keep you pleased. You will live in a field of false signals. Economists call this preference falsification. Everyone nods while thinking something else. Decisions look supported until reality arrives and the facade collapses. Authority reduces this gap by making it safe to tell the truth and costly to hide it. This is not an argument for hostility. It is an argument for clarity. You do not have to become a tyrant to hold authority. You have to be non-negotiable on priorities that matter. You have to train your nervous system to tolerate being misunderstood. You have to keep promises to the mission when those promises conflict with what makes you likable. That is the competence that others feel as presence. Compliance experiments by Ash and Milgram showed how easily people surrender judgment under perceived authority. This is not a reason to abuse power. It is a warning about the real force you carry when you hold position or expertise. If you avoid this force because you want to be liked, someone else will use it. Sometimes they will do it with less ethics than you would bring. Abdication is not virtue. It is cowardice disguised as kindness. Consider the workplace. The manager who communicates clearly, ties behavior to outcomes, and applies consequences evenly will be called strict. The team will test them. Over time, the most competent gravitate toward them because they can work without chaos. The manager who flattens every edge to keep everyone happy will be praised for empathy. Over time, the best people leave because they cannot perform in a mood-driven environment. Both managers are talked about. Only one builds something that lasts. Consider your personal life. If your friendships require constant agreement, you are not friends. You are trading reassurance. If your relationship cannot withstand an honest no, affection is conditional. Authority in your own life starts with the right to refuse what violates your standards. If you cannot assert that right, you will collect people who benefit from your weakness and call it love. Neurologically, you can train for this. Conflict tolerance is a skill. The prefrontal cortex can downregulate amygdala reactivity with repeated exposure to discomfort. You do not need to chase confrontation. You need to stop fleeing it. Sit in the silence after you say no. Let the other person's face tighten. Watch your own impulse to relieve the tension. Do not. Every time you survive that moment, you weaken the old conditioning that made you dependent on positive feedback. Authority also requires that you accept asymmetry in reputation. A subset will never like you. They do not have to. You do not owe them warmth. You owe them fairness. You owe yourself alignment. Complexity enters here. Sometimes you must use charm because charm speeds compliance at low cost. Sometimes you must use distance because distance prevents enmeshment. If you do not consciously choose your posture, the environment will choose for you. It will choose likability because it costs you more than it costs them. Powerful people understand this and hide it in plain sight. Corporations brand themselves as friendly while legal departments operate on hard rules. Politicians smile into cameras while their whips count votes and punish defection. Elite schools preach inclusion while selecting for compliance under pressure. You are allowed to feel warmth. You are not required to be ruled by it. Those who rise separate their public affect from their private standards. They do not advertise their enforcement. They exercise it. You may be wondering how much fear is acceptable. The answer is not about emotion. It is about predictability. People should not fear your moods. They should anticipate your boundaries. They should know that if they violate them, consequences arrive on schedule. That is not intimidation. That is governance. It produces stability because it removes guesswork. It also produces resentment in people who want to live without limits. That is the cost. There is a common objection. If I am not liked, I will lose access. The truth is simpler. Access built on flattery collapses under stress. Access built on value and reliability survives disagreement. High performers respect those who protect standards. They may complain, but they stay. Low performers need you to be liked because likability keeps their behavior protected. Decide who you want to optimize for. Another objection. What if I am naturally agreeable? You can keep your temperament and change your thresholds. You do not need to become hostile. You need to define what is non-negotiable and enforce only that. Most people enforce everything halfway. Enforce a few things completely. That will do more for your authority than enforcing many things inconsistently. Your metrics must change. Stop measuring success by applause. Measure by alignment between stated priorities and observable behavior. Measure by the speed and accuracy of hard decisions. Measure by how quickly people correct themselves when you correct them. If correction does not lead to correction, you are teaching people that your words are optional. Optional words are noise. Robert Greene writes that you must court attention, yet never appear desperate for it. Translate that. Visibility has value. Neediness kills it. Watch your own speech patterns. Apologies for asserting normal boundaries. Excessive justification. Nervous laughter after serious statements. Each is a small negotiation with yourself. Each tells the room you can be moved. Remove the habit, not your humanity. There is a deeper identity shift that ends the conflict between being liked and holding authority. Decide that you would rather be credible than liked. Credibility is calm. You say less. You repeat yourself less. You do not chase people who resist standards. You let attrition do its work. You cultivate a core that values clarity. You treat the rest with courtesy and distance. This mindset will cost you invitations. It will protect your time. It will attract the competent and repel the dependent. It will make you a target for those who need you to be softer. They will project motives onto you. They will tell stories to explain why you did not bend the way they are used to others bending. You will be tempted to explain yourself. Do not. Explain the rule once. Enforce it. Move on. What you are hearing is not mainstream advice, because mainstream environments are structured to reward compliance. Schools condition polite deference. Workplaces talk endlessly about culture while punishing anyone who threatens comfort. Platforms feed you metrics that make you chase visible approval. This is why the default path produces followers, not deciders. Opting out requires that you live with short-term social penalties for long-term autonomy. If you are still watching, you are not looking for permission to be cruel. You are looking for the strength to be firm. That is different. It is more demanding. It asks you to subordinate your ego to the mission, your mood to your standards, and your desire to be liked to the respect you want to be remembered for. It asks you to be fair, even when you are not thanked. It asks you to hold yourself to the same heat you place on others. Machiavelli's answer remains the cleanest. If you cannot be both, choose to be respected before you choose to be liked. In practice, that means you choose clarity before charm. You choose consistency before warmth. You choose consequence before convenience. After you choose, you accept that some doors will close. The doors that remain lead where you actually wanted to go. The majority will reject this because the majority is trained to live without edges. They will call their avoidance compassion and their fear humility. They will pay the compound interest later when their choices converge to someone else's plan. A minority will accept the cost now. They will learn to hold tension without flinching. They will become the people others consult when stakes rise and fantasy evaporates. If you are part of that minority, treat this as your threshold. Decide what you will no longer trade for approval. Decide what you will enforce without apology. Let people discover they cannot move you with frowns or praise. Build allies who prefer stability to softness. Walk away from incentives that put your need to be liked in charge of your standards. This is not for everyone. It is not supposed to be. Those who understand it do not need more words. Those who cannot bear it should not try. If you want more of this lens and you are ready to be held to it, stay close. The room is small on purpose.